So that was my descending slur study from my primary studies for guitar, dealing with descending slurs. So slurs are really good barometers, I guess we could say, for the left hand, meaning that if things are positioned well for the left hand, then slurs are easy and they sound good. And this applies to both descending and ascending slurs. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few moments. So good components, or components of good left hand technique, what are we talking about? Generally, and it is hard to generalize because the left hand is called on to do so many various different things that it can be difficult to generalize. But there's some guiding principles that we want to keep in mind. First thing is the elbow should stay down. We really want to minimize the action of any of the muscles of the shoulder, the neck, the back, in the action of the left hand. So I always tell people, wherever your left arm is down when you're hanging by your side, where your elbow is pretty much where it's going to be most of the time when you're playing. So you want to avoid lifting the elbow away from the torso. We want, as much as possible with the left arm, to avoid really spending a lot of time squeezing the neck. We want to allow the arm to fall into the neck and use the weight of the arm to kind of do the work of holding the string against the fret for us. So the pressure on the left hand thumb should be fairly light, and that's only possible again if the elbow is down, and also if the wrist is primarily, most of the time, flat. Sometimes there's going to be a little motion this way or that way, but what you don't want is a left hand position that's based on something that has a more extended wrist. So we really want the wrist to remain flat, light pressure with the thumb because we're using the weight of the arm, and we can do that because the elbow's down, or we're not using a whole lot of shoulder muscle, neck, that kind of thing to do the work for us. What that requires also is that the third and fourth fingers have to be very, very curled, very arch-shaped, and placed on the strings on their fingertips. So those things, if they're happening, your slur technique should be good. They should sound good, and they should be relatively easy to do. Talking about the action of a descending slur itself. The descending slur is actually a rearticulation of the string with the left hand finger. So I'm actually plucking the string with my left hand finger. So here I am playing F and E and the 6th and 5th frets on the second string with second finger and first finger. I'm curling my 3rd and 4th fingers out of the way so you can see them clearly, not because that's a good position for those fingers. So I'm moving the finger from the knuckle joint, pulling it this way, bringing it to rest against the first finger, against the first string. The action comes from that middle joint. Notice that my arm and my hand are very still. I'm not using the arm or the hand to perform the action of the slur. It's all at the finger, so the hand is very, very still. Same thing applies to ascending slurs, what are often called hammer-ons as well. So the action is all at the finger, and if you notice, I'm not using a whole lot of force. I'm not slamming the finger down on the string. It's one of the reasons why I don't really like the term hammer-on. It's descriptive, but it also gives us the wrong impression that it requires a whole lot of force in order to do that. What's important about getting your ascending slurs to sound good is a really clean and precise placement of the finger on the string. I always like to say too, it's the same action that I'd be doing if I were just putting the finger down on the string. So this is me, I'm playing C and D on the 3rd string, 5th and 7th frets. This is me not slurring, actually plucking each note, right? This is me slurring. little difference in the motion in terms of speed and placement, but I'm not doing a big wind up and trying to slam the finger onto the fingerboard. So I try to make the action the same as just putting the finger down. Whether or not that's actually what happens, I don't know, but in my mind, thinking that makes that happen really well. So in one of my other video lessons, I have some basic slur exercises, similar to what I was just doing. You can do whole step ascending, whole step descending, with 1 and 3, or 2 and 4. And those are most of what we see in the repertoire, is whole steps and half steps. Other things happen, but focusing on those is congruent with what we're going to run into the repertoire most often. And we also can do half step slurs with 1 and 2, 2 and 3, and 3 and 4. So, and I have some exercises in that lesson as well to talk about that. Another thing that's really, really helpful, I think, and a good exercise to do is playing major scales with slurs. The D major scale is a good one. So simple D major scale, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, right? And doing ascending slurs for the ascending part of the scale. And then descending slurs for the descending part of the scale. So that works really well with D major, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And again, ascending. Another thing to keep in mind with descending slurs is that the finger that we're slurring to needs to be down really securely before the finger I'm slurring from. Actually, G major is a good one too. It's the same fingering as the C major, just lower on the fingerboard. Creates a slightly different angle, slightly different challenges. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Right. Something else to keep in mind, and this is one of the biggest errors that I think people make with slur technique, is that a slur doesn't change the rhythm. So again, if I'm just playing this G major scale, that's the rhythm I'm thinking of as eighth notes 1 and 2 and but the rhythm shouldn't change. Because I'm slurring. Typically, we tend to shorten the first note of slurs, both ascending, so you get something that sounds more like a galloping sound. You want to practice them evenly.